Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Each week, we talk about the digital world, and we all think it's easy to do our own posting, our own graphics, and everything, and it's not. It's difficult because it's the consistency that usually catches up with you. We got a lot of energy the first week, and we think, oh, this is great. I'll do this. And then we either run out of topics or run out of time. So go to oakcitytech.com. Tell me you're looking for some help on your posting, your digital marketing footprint, and they'll be able to help. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you local small business success stories. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 35 chapters and about 520 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our small business success story this week is Sandee Cooper, owner of Real Property Management. I kind of forgot that. I knew I was going to do that. Impact. They're
Yeah.
based out of Durham. Sandy is in RDO 6, Profits in the Park. They meet Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. When they're meeting in person, it will be at Hope Community Church in Morrisville. Sandy, glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Everything good?
Everything's
Everybody
great.
behaving? No phone
Yeah.
calls from tenants or
Well, I don't know about that. I already got a couple of repairs this morning, so that's okay.
All right, so Sandy and her husband John are property managers, mainly residential property managers.
Correct. Yep.
So they work with investors and homeowners who don't want to manage their house. And if I can help anybody listening today, don't manage your own house. And we're gonna get into some of those on why you need professionals to do that because there's a lot involved to do it the right way. So Sandy, you and John are coming up on almost a year doing this, and we're gonna get to your backstory in a little bit. But how's it going so far?
Yeah, it's been a great year. I mean, I definitely so really we launched technically the week before Christmas. It was kind of slow, so I'd say January is officially when we started. And yeah, so it's a little over 9 months in, and it's been great. And it's been obviously we've had the challenges of supply issues here in the Triangle with property, but the properties we've brought on and the owners, it's been great.
Now you will write a book one day, no doubt, about
Mhm.
your experiences, and I think this is probably your 3rd or 4th business, we'll get to that too, about why it's such a good idea to start a business during a pandemic at the end of a calendar year, right?
That's right. That's right.
And tell people, "Hey, if you're gonna go big, do it then, and I'll be impressed," right?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a previous business, not afraid to take some risks. Certainly, COVID changed the world for a lot of people, and we also were, had to kind of pivot very quickly during the pandemic. We had a business of 12 years that was kind of the perfect storm. It was food services and a healthcare
Mm,
facility. So
yep.
when everything paused, it kind of had made us, pivot, and so here we are.
Yeah, and I wanna get to that in a little bit because 'cause I'm fascinated by that and your other business, that we spoke about last week when we did our one-to-one. The market today, so a couple things in the residential property management world. The first thing is, my first question to you is the market for homes for sale is having what kind of impact on rental properties and finding tenants?
Yeah. So right now, because obviously the market is so crazy for buying residential, we're also seeing the same thing for rental. Because people are selling their homes and then they're cashing out and they have nowhere to go. And they're coming with cash. And we also know that there's a lot of people coming to the Triangle area. And they want to maybe rent first before they decide which part of the area they want to live in. So finding quality tenants is not necessarily the issue right now. We're definitely, it seems we're having, to be able to turn around rentals very quickly. It's just having enough properties to be able to offer them to rent in. We are doing some unique things with some short-term leasing. We have a couple properties. It's an owner by owner situation where they'd be willing to take on a unique situation if they're waiting for their house to be complete, to be built. So those are some cool things that are happening in the rental market, but it is still pretty competitive as far as just finding properties to provide to all these tenants that are looking. We have lots of tenants looking for properties, not a lot of houses.
If you are looking to sell your house right now, it's obviously a seller's market. The problem is if you wanna stay in the triangle is finding
Mhm.
something, especially in that what, the 250 to 400 range where it's just ridiculous,
Exactly. Yeah.
lack of inventory. It's a risk that it sounds like some people are willing to take if you've got, tenants with some cash, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, for us, the sweet spot is the 3 bedroom, 2 bath. We can't have enough of those properties that rent around 2000 a month. Um, and they rent within anywhere from 2000 to like 2200, and they rent within like 3 to 4 days. We have multiple tenants looking for those properties.
Do you have more people asking for those short-term agreements? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
I am yes. I mean, there are definitely some cases, and it's usually somebody that's like building a house where it's the timing where they've already sold their house and they're still, for whatever reason, there delays on their build because of the supply chain, that it's now pushed out like they're like they have a buffer of 3 to 6 months that they need to rent. Um, so on those cases, I mean, we work with the owner specifically. Everybody loves the 12-month lease to lock in, but to be creative right now in this market, um, there are a few cases like that.
Usually when I have a guest on, Sandy, I say, "Now in normal times," but this is normal for you. I
Um,
mean, this is all you guys
oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, when somebody is looking for a rental property and they're, a year, 2 years, they're actually looking for something to rent for a while, what's the one thing they're willing to say, "This is a must-have"?
Um, that's a good question. I would have to say, well, I mean, mostly dishwashers. Everyone wants a dishwasher. Um, all of our properties do washers and dryers, so those are also another. No one wants to get a laundromat, and honestly, you get a higher quality tenant if you have a washer and dryer in there, just statistically.
Yeah.
But I would definitely see a dishwasher is probably the must have. Um,
Isn't that what kids
and
are for, Sandy? Come on.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. Um,
Are people willing to move further out to get the right rental property these days?
um, I say we have some properties that are, I'm actually surprised how far, like for instance, Franklinton,
Mhm.
Middlesex, that are a little further out. They're new builds. So those are, they're rentals that are new builds. So they have all the bells and whistles on them. And so people are willing to go a little further out to have like a little piece of paradise, I would say. So if it's not so, um, those properties that we have a little further out surprise me how quickly they rented. They're not as, and they're both of them are, those particular properties are still, well over the 2000 a month mark. So if they would probably in Cary or Apex, they would have been, probably 3000. So definitely people are willing to go a little bit further out if it meets their family needs.
Now, I've been to Middlesex. That's a haul from here.
Yeah, it is.
Are you finding people are being able to work from home so they have the luxury of maybe moving a little further out for now?
And that's also has a as a play in it. As long as the highways are kind of close to
Yep.
get into, it's fine because they're maybe 1 or 2 days a week. They have to be into an office, and then the other times they have to be. It's kind of like a hybrid. So I definitely think it is opening up. Where people are living as well.
As I've been in BNI and gotten to know residential property managers, I've learned a lot of what life is like and expectations are for the homeowner slash investor or the tenant. So on the homeowner slash investor side, I've heard stories before of, John and Susie selling their house. Hey, we want it to be a rental property and we're going to manage it. And then the minute the washing machine kind of craps out they're like, well, you have to replace that. Like, no, that wasn't mine. That the tenant broke that. It's like,
That's
no,
right.
that's not the way it works. So the homeowner is on the hook for a lot of the appliances in the house and situations
Maintenance.
like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely something, I mean, again, as a property manager, we set up the expectations and really educate the tenant as well, what they're responsible for. They are like on a wash machine or a dryer, the dryer in particular, they're responsible for making sure they take the lint out
Yeah.
of there are definitely things that you have to educate sometimes. I mean, I had a call recently where my dryer's broken and it smells like burning, electrical, and it's like, help, help. And come to find out, we go down there and there's 8 wet blankets in the dryer, and it's like, okay, all you had to do is have maybe 1 or 2 of the blankets at a
Mhm.
time. It was overstuffed. They were new, right out of college. Washing every comforter, blanket, everything all at once. And so it was an education. It ended up being fine, and it was not a it just stalled. It did its job. It turned off. So from a owner standpoint, we really try to manage the costs for them on their behalf. So there are definitely things that are clearly the tenant's responsibility. If they overstuff a garbage disposal and put stuff down it that they shouldn't, it is 100% the tenant. It's not the owner's responsibility. Um, but then there's other maintenance things I'm doing right now with all of my tenants or my owners, a fall seasonal maintenance. So we're getting the gutters organized, the fireplace is cleaned, the HVAC system. So I'm trying to be more preventative in their investment. These are things that you have to do anyway, whether you lived in them or not, to maintain the property. Let's get these fixed out of the gate and all taken care of. So
And it's those little things that matter to the maintenance of the house, whether you own it or not. I've had a couple of other property managers, a couple of home inspectors on in the past. And to a person, they've all said, when it is pouring outside, get an umbrella and walk around the outside of your house. You'll learn a bunch.
true. It's true.
Yep. That goes to the gutters and everything like that. Um, from the tenant side, I've also learned that one of the what I think may be the most important thing that you do and other property managers do is that tenant screening to get somebody that's gonna stay in there, but which your job is to protect the owner.
Correct. Correct.
How do you guys go about that? Do you like that process? Is it well, I go back to the normal like 2017, but we can't go
Yeah.
back that far, but,
I mean,
how do you
it's
enjoy
not
that?
it's not easy sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's really easy because, yeah, they have a 700 credit score and on paper they're great. The hard part is when, you have to make that decision where maybe they have too much debt and you're like, when you're looking at it, the borderline cases, having that, usually it's a clear cut situation. And because people are coming, maybe they've sold their other home and there's a lot of, cash right now. So, and most of our tenants right now are they're overqualified for our properties. The hard part, I think, is when they're borderline and you're having to make a decision whether, and then in that particular case, we'll get the owner involved to basically, if it's a borderline like a debt issue. I mean, there's clear cut things that we would definitely, obviously, if they had an eviction. Um, or they can't pay their rent on time from going back through their, landlord history, those are clear cut. We don't want them. But when it's, they have maybe who doesn't have student loan debt,
Yeah.
who doesn't have medical debt, So those are kind of things that you're like, you're a little bit more understanding on and screening those. that piece of it. Um, and we usually the referral going back to their rental history tells a lot. So when the previous landlords um, can share information about the tenant and what condition did they leave the
Yeah.
property in, how did they maintain it, um, and usually they're singing praises. Obviously, you know they're going to talk up the tenants of the good things that they've done, and sad to see them leave. Those are all great indicators that they'll be a great tenant for us as well.
We are here with Sandee Cooper, Real Property
Mhm.
Management Impact out of Durham. Sandee is also in RDO6, Profits in the Park. They meet Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Right now it's on Zoom. That when they get back in person, it'll be Hope Community Church in Morrisville. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, we talk about emails a lot. You do not own your Facebook page or your YouTube or anything like that. They can cut you off in a minute if they want to. But with emails and newsletters and everything, you own that because you have the names. So talk to some professionals like Oak City Tech that know how to manage that for you to help you stay in contact with your previous and current clients and hopefully help you find some new ones. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Sandy, one again, going back to, the John and Susie's of the world that sell their house and want to manage it. That's the toughest thing is to come up with that tenant because they probably don't have access to do those background checks. And it can be very risky, can it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we kind of have an 8 point screening process that we go through. So we do obviously the credit score is one. We'll verify their income. We'll also do, criminal background check, go back through landlord history. If they're self-employed, we'll make sure that we'll get some tax records and bank statements as well. Um, if they have a pet that they're coming on, we screen
Oh,
their pet. We want vet records. We want to make sure that their pet didn't have, any type of, violations or, whatever it is on from a pet side, to make sure that if you're bringing a pet into the property, that it is, has all up to date shots. And yeah, so the screening is, we do it on a scoring basis. And anyone that's over 18 has to qualify for through the screening process.
now, for as I generally, when I mention other topics, I say it's for another podcast, which we don't need to go into right now. But
Mhm.
a couple of years ago, my brother and I had a pest control company, and a couple of times I would spray down by NC State, not
Mhm.
knocking state because I know all universities are like this, but boy, there were some rental properties. You are taking your life in your own hands when you buy a house near a campus and you rent it out to students you don't
I
know.
know.
Holy cow!
True. That
Uh,
is true. I have a couple student housing up in Chapel Hill and also down
Yeah.
by Elon. So
Yep,
yeah.
yep. That's we'll just leave it at that.
And
But
it's great. I was going to say this weekend I had a bunch of guys come through one of our properties in Chapel Hill, and they loved the property. And I was just doing the, oh please, please no, please no. I want girls in this property, not guys. They came with their frat shirts on and
yeah,
everything, and I'm like, no.
and I will back that statement 100%. For just oh god, 20-year-old 3 or 4 20-year-old guys in a house think it's a good idea. It's like, "Oh, man." So,
Yeah.
but anyways, hopefully everything goes well for you on that. You had mentioned earlier about the previous business you had, and it was called, if I've got it right, it's called Good to Go Cafe.
Yeah, good to go.
You guys owned it for about 12 years, and most of them were located in the medical buildings along the East Coast.
Yes.
So how did that get started? And you have some entrepreneurial spirit in you prior to all these, correct?
Yeah, I do. My husband and I were, I guess, products of throughout the 90s and early 200 or 2000s, that every 2 to 3 years, companies were either being bought out or consolidated. And we kind of always had talked that we wanted to run our own business together. Didn't Never knew really what it was. And my husband, coming from a strong finance background, he has his MBA. He was always, let's buy an existing business that had a market share, and let's see how we can grow it. Let's find a captive market, and go after it. And so it was a search for about a couple years, and ended up buying an espresso cart that was located in a very busy Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in the DC area, right? Northern Virginia. And, my first thought was, I don't know if I want to run a coffee business. I don't know if I want to be in the retail business. Um, and I went and looked at he had done the number side. He had looked at the business and really encouraged me to go take a look at this business one day. And after being there, it was a busy, busy center where it was just a cart, and every other person I watched for probably about an hour, one lunch hour, and it was like every other person was, "Do you have food? Do you have?" And the woman didn't take credit card at the time, so
Ooh.
there was a lot of low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
and it was crazy busy. And I said, "Let's make an offer." And so we bought the cart in this Kaiser Permanente with the idea that it wasn't just going to be one cart, it was going to be multiples. And we knew that healthcare was not going anywhere. Kaiser Permanente was making a big push in the DC area. And so I ran it, learned everything about the business, obviously added credit cards within the first week. And I mean, they didn't even have like food, like sandwiches and salads and that kind of stuff. They just had some French pastries to go with your espresso, and that was it. I mean, which was not healthy. And so we ended up we turned it into kind of a healthy espresso cafe is kind of what I coined it. It's kind of a Starbucks meets Whole Foods. Ran it myself for the first year, did everything. And then just started reaching out to Kaiser saying, if you have other locations, I'm interested in other locations. And um, probably within a year and a half, after asking probably every 2 months, 3 months, I was like, I want more. I want to, see what else I can do for you. After about a year and a half, we got the second location as a test. And then shortly after, they asked us to do the RFP for the whole region. So we had as many as 6 locations, and then ran 4 of them. I guess it was 3. We kind of realized that not all locations were equal. Kaiser was doing these mini hubs. They were kind of like hospital size one-stop shops, and that's where we kind of uh, consolidated down to those 3 hubs. And that's up until COVID, March of 2020. We were operating very successfully those locations. We had a commercial kitchen. We did catering. We did some meal prep and some other, really cool things that we were doing. And then everything kind of went to a screeching halt, and allowed us to really step back and kind of decide what we really wanted to do.
Now
One of the Yeah, go on.
the first year that you owned it and you ran the cart, was this just breakfast and lunch hours?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I was there at 6 in the morning until we probably 4 every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what food did you learn that you would not only would be, uh, popular, but you could make quickly because was there just you running the cart?
It was, and so obviously I didn't have a commercial kitchen at that time, so it was really trying to find someone to partner with. So I went to a lot of local catering companies initially. I had a real specific idea of what type of food I wanted there. Obviously, being in a healthcare facility, it had to have a healthy spin to it. And oddly enough, from my previous connection, my job before I went into my own business, I had done a lot of work with this Whole Foods that was near my old office, and their catering department. The woman that ran that catering department ended up being a huge asset to me. She decided, well, we can do it from a whole food standpoint. We'll do all the sandwiches and salads for you, but they put our label on it. So I provided the labels on it, but it was kind of a private label, but it was all made at Whole Foods. So every morning on the way to, it was ridiculous. I had a standing order, but every morning I would swing by Whole Foods with my big cooler, and we would, I'd have my food, fresh, salads and sandwiches for the day. And we did that I think we picked up sandwiches and salads from Whole Foods for about 3 or 4 years until we got the commercial kitchen, and we could make them in house. And the problem was I was making very little margin on those sandwiches, but they were really tasty.
When I talk to people who have never owned a small business, and the picture that's painted is very sexy. Hey, I'm my own boss. If I want to take off Fridays, I can do that. What we don't think about are those 5:15 a.m. runs to Whole Foods.
I mean, it's kind of funny. I think back to like, okay, for instance, I ended up doing smoothies and, like espresso kind of, those frap type drinks.
Mhm.
And there was nowhere for me to have ice. Like ice, I couldn't. So every day I would swing by Whole Foods. And for some reason their ice was too expensive. So then there was a giant grocery store that was near. So I would do two stops. I would get the sandwiches and then I would go get my ice at Giant, and it's kind of funny. I mean, and everybody knew me in all those stores and ended up actually when I started hiring people, some of the people from Giant were some of my best, helped me with my employment going forward. So it's kind of funny how it, you have to do what you have to do to get it up and running. So
Well, but there's all those things to learn. There's first of all, what does the customer want is always the best question to ask. Okay, so you learn that the smoothies are good, the pre-made sandwiches, everybody's on board with that. And then you get into logistics, right? How do I get it there? uh, my guess is some mornings there would be somebody waiting for you to get to your cart because they're just kind of early, right?
oh yeah, always. Yeah, I mean, it was a center that had, surgeries, outpatient
Yep.
surgeries, and so
Yep.
family members were dropping off another family member, and they're like, "I need my espresso, I need my coffee, I need my," so yeah.
And you could have gone in like to 8 or 9 o'clock at night, probably, and still had a decent run of customers.
It's funny because we did originally the big hub centers for Kaiser are 24-hour centers, but the doctors stopped their appointments at 5 o'clock. So it ended up being just like urgent care and anything related to the surgery. And maybe the pharmacy. And so we did try to extend the hours, and again, just not that profitable. And we just kind of narrowed the window to make it the most profitable while we had the maximum people there.
And that's one of the beauties of small business for me is just watching that because you have to try it. You
Mhm.
can't wait for a year and go, wow, maybe you got to try it. And it didn't cost you a lot to learn that, okay, that doesn't work for our business.
And we would try it periodically
Mhm.
too, and we would try and we actually, as they started to expand their surgeries to the weekend, we did half day Saturdays just to be
Wow.
there for. So we did pivot quite a bit based on whatever the demands of that location were. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great chapter in the business plan to again learn what the customers want,
Mhm.
and if all of a sudden Saturday morning becomes a busy day, guess what? As a small business owner, what you're doing on Saturday
That's right.
morning,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
part that people forget to factor in. Of oh, that's right, I'm the last line of defense, so I have to show up and open the shop. So, my other favorite story that you did, and I've not heard this before, and when you and I talked, I guess last week or the week before, you had opened a cleaning business in college.
Yeah.
Love that. So the history behind that was, money, which is always good,
Yeah.
but you wanted your own. So how did all that come about? How did you start getting clients?
Yeah. So, yeah, this was 80, 86, 87 when I went off to college, and my mom would give me a check of $20. That's all this is all I'm going to give you. So I was like, that's not going to cut it. Um, but I didn't want it to conflict with my classes, obviously, or my social schedule. And so I was trying to find something um, that could be flexible. And so a friend of mine and I came up with the idea of, let's clean houses. Here's our school schedule. Let's see if we can get a couple houses. We made a flyer and put it up in the student union. And it's one of those had the little phone numbers, and you
The tabs
tear
at
it.
the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, handmade. And sure enough, we got a couple professors at the university, and I know two. It started off with like two houses that we were doing a week. around our schedule. And then it just started building word of mouth from there. And I think we had about maybe 6 houses, and it was like every 6 or 7 houses every other, it was like an every other week. And then they kept adding services on, like, can you do our floors? Can you do like special things? Or if they were having a party and they needed an extra cleaning or organizing, or even coming after the party to get things, we, just started, and we had it for like about 3 years that we did this business. And didn't conflict with our school schedule, and was great cash, and it was a terrific, and then we kind of went our ways after graduation, and it was great though. It's a great way to start.
Oh, yeah. Now, this was at Western Michigan, right?
Yeah, Western, yep.
Now, the statute of limitations has passed, so you can answer. This was an all cash business, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, I knew nothing at the time, so it was like, yeah, sorority money and
Yeah.
play money, and it was just, it was all social. So, but what I didn't I guess the biggest lesson out of that is, we started it, cold turkey, and then we grew it based on opportunity. And
Mhm.
I think that's the piece with everything that I've done. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is the sky's the limit. It could have been a lot more if I really wanted it to. I ended up moving to New York City and went a totally different direction, but I still, cleaning and what you learn in that type of business, and the customer service aspect of it, it never goes away.
It's all about the customers, right?
It
Keeping them
is, yes.
happy.
Yep.
One of my favorite questions to ask people on the show here that are married. And that's why I confirm that with everybody now. I told you the story earlier. Why? You and your husband John. So I always
Yep.
ask, how did you two meet? And you both tell the story the same way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a good one. So, we did meet in a bar, and the bar's not there anymore, on the Upper East Side or Upper West Side of, New York, off of Amsterdam Avenue. He was at NYU. I was, first job out of college working there. I was with friends. He was with friends. He likes to tell the story that it was outside the ladies' room. I'm not quite sure it was that. I actually think, uh, he had a kind of an obnoxious friend, and that was chatting with my friend, and I came to my friend's rescue, and he kind of broke his friend up, and next thing you know, we ended up talking, for an hour later. So that is how we met, in a bar.
Now, where was the first date officially?
So it was January, it was snowing, and I remember, it was a we met we went I think, did we go bowling? I thought there was an activity that we did. Um, but we ended up, so we started with some friends on a double date, and then ended up going off on our own. And I don't know if you remember that movie, She's Got Mail,
Yes.
where, Meg Ryan's sitting waiting for Tom Hanks in this cafe, and he never shows. So it's up on the Upper West
Yep.
Side, called Cafe Lalo, and that was where we ended our first date. And,
Nice.
yeah, so we always every time we go to New York City, that's one of our stops
Mm.
to go to that cafe. It is still there.
There
It's
you go.
changed hands quite a bit of times, but,
Now, when did you know, okay, this is who I'm going to marry?
well, oddly enough, we were only dating 3 months, 4 months before we were engaged. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, it was kinda crazy. I don't know if I tell my kids, well, they know the
Yeah.
story, but I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Don't make that decision so quickly." Honestly, um, it was Easter weekend. He proposed on an Amtrak train coming back from Washington, DC, if you can believe that. So, yeah, we're kinda crazy.
Did you know he was going to ask you?
Well, I did know that he was graduating from business school, and he was definitely, leaning of moving to Hong Kong, as a, kind of an adventure. And it was more of like, come with me, let's get married. It was one of those, um, somewhat build up conversations. I guess I didn't really expect the ring on that, that weekend, or that proposal on that Amtrak train, but it was leaning in that direction. So
Was there a crowd watching, and did he get down on a knee on an Amtrak train?
No, there was not a crowd, and there was no ring. He actually went and got a ring the following weekend with his grandma, so it was more of spontaneous for sure.
Dang, gutsy
Yeah.
move on a train with no ring. I like that. That's confidence,
And
right?
then the next day I was like, "Am I engaged or not?" And I was like
Hey,
looking, I'm
hey,
like,
hey,
"I don't even." I didn't have it until the next weekend.
hey.
It was like, "Do I tell people? I don't
And y'all have 2 kids, and I'm gonna compliment you on your parenting for your daughter. I'm sure you're a good parent to your son, but your
know."
daughter goes to Tennessee. I mean, whose
Oh,
kid
yeah.
knew? That's where I
Go
went to
Bulls.
school, so I think you did well with her.
Go Bulls. Yeah. She's
It
all about
is
she's
be
like, "Football games are the best.
Yep,
They're the best.
yep,
Best thing about college." Yeah.
even when our team is awful, so,
I know.
oh
Well,
well.
they have a little bit of promise this year, so maybe.
We're going to Florida on Saturday. I think
Oh,
we're gonna
well.
get our hats handed to us, but
Okay.
anyways, that's why they make vodka for me. A couple things, wanna get to here before we're done. You run or ran marathons,
Yeah, I've run 2 marathons,
right?
so
Are you still running marathons?
not marathons.
Okay,
I'm down to more 5Ks and,
yeah,
I just actually did my last 5K was Labor Day weekend just here locally for the Caring Place. So
yep,
that was my so I like to do more of the local. I don't think my knees can take it anymore, but I certainly love the it's a motivator for me. I like setting goals and achieving them. So I don't think I have any more marathons in me, but certainly anything charity
yep.
related, I think it's really cool. And I really want to do the running of the bulls next year here in
Oh,
Durham.
Sandy, I'm gonna miss you. I just you don't no, no. But anyways, hey, it's a good story, and I'll just show this tape one day if you don't come back that, "Hey, we had her on the show, she was great, but decided to run with the bulls."
No, 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 no. The one in Durham, the road race,
Oh, I thought you
not
meant
the
Pamplona.
no, 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 no. I don't want
Oh.
to do that one.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, thank you. I'm too old for that. I'm talking about here in the Bull City, the running of the bulls.
Well,
Well,
okay,
I don't know what they.
I'm glad you'll be safer, but I'm not as impressed running in the Bull City,
Yeah,
okay?
I'll
Just
watch the
look
running of the bulls
yeah,
in
yeah.
Spain. I won't run it
So
though.
you finished the New York City Marathon. That must have been cool running pretty much that whole way, right?
It was, yeah, definitely pretty amazing.
I've
Yeah.
had a
So,
couple friends running that, and they said that people just are always whatever you write on your on your name tag, in your number up front or on the back,
mhm,
that's what they'll
that's
yell,
true.
"Hey,
That's
go,
true.
whatever." Yeah.
I had so the cool thing is my dad ran with me. He from Michigan. He came and we started. He was kind of more of like a fast walker. He trained in Michigan. I trained in New York, and we started together over the Verrazano Bridge. And we both had our Michigan hats on. So I would, everything was go and blue and
Yep.
the whole way. So it was kind of fun.
Oh, yeah, I bet that was amazing, just that whole experience to do
It
that.
was.
And
Yes.
that was the first one you ran, the Marine Corps one was the second one?
Yeah, the
Alright.
Marine Corps. I was better trained for the Marine Corps. That was
Yep.
like my 40th birthday to myself was to, I still got it. I can do this. And well, definitely trained better, was in better shape than I was when I was ran the New York City right in my 20s. So um, it was great. I mean, running in DC too is pretty
Yep.
remarkable.
No,
And my family was there to support. And so that was pretty cool.
there you go, there you go. One of the things I really like about BNI, and there are a number of things that bring me great joy being part of BNI, is just the people. Many of the people in BNI are active in the community, and you had mentioned one of your connections earlier with the caring place, and
Yep.
I know that's prevalent on your website to let people know you do. But that's also the 5K you ran the other day. How did that connection get started?
Yeah, so the Caring Place, we're I guess one of our BNI chapter is pretty unique that we have a nonprofit in our group, and it is the Caring Place. So I guess even going back to my business in DC, my husband and I always feel like it's really important to find a charity that's kind of bigger than ourselves, and it's just not the business, but maybe there's something that we could do to the community. So, but even with our food service business back in DC, we had a local charity that we every Friday made donations of because we had huge salad bars and lots of perishable food. that wouldn't make it through the weekend. So they would come and do donations, and that food would go out directly to families in need through all the local churches in the Montgomery County area, right outside of DC. And so I think we were donating like 4,000 pounds of food every year, just our
Wow.
small little business, which made an impact to many families. So when we came here, we wanted to also find something that we could connect with. And then when I met Carolyn, who is our in our BNI, and she runs the caring place, learning about that charity and really helping working homeless families to independence. And it's financial literacy, it's helping give stability to these families, and they've helped over 400 families in the Triangle get better jobs and live independent, and just taking things of your budget, your family budget, and making having mentors is a really, really terrific program. So naturally, being in the property business and real estate business, and one of the keys to the caring place is to really find stability through a home, or you know being able to be self-sufficient and have their own place to live is critical for these families. And so we thought it was a natural partnership with them. So for every referral that we get that turns into a management contract for a property that we will manage, we give $200 in whoever's, the whether it's the referral partner, or even the investor or property owner's name, to the caring place.
Cool.
And that's something, so far we have over $1,200 worth of referrals right now that we have been able to just give to the caring place for their budgeting and whatever their needs are, because it's such a terrific program that we think is really great to be a part of the community.
That's wonderful. I like that. Again, it's one of the neat things about BNI. Real quick, you mentioned that you have visited 3 of the 7 new wonders of the world.
Yeah.
What happened to the 7 old ones, and what did they add?
I know. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. So they're like the Great Wall of China
Mhm.
is considered more one of the newer, and also I'm going to say this probably incorrectly, the Chichen Itza in Mexico, the pyramids.
Oh,
That's a newer. So I've traveled quite a bit. I've lived in Mexico as a kid. I spent my first 2 years of marriage in Hong Kong and got to travel Asia pretty extensively. So some of the traveling that I was able to do, amazing,
what are
amazing.
the 3 you visited?
So Chichen Itza, which is the Mexican ruins,
Okay.
the Great Wall of China is a newer, and I'm trying to think what was the last one. Trying to think
The pyramids of Egypt,
no, it wasn't the pyramids. It's something.
Neyland Stadium in Knoxville,
Yeah, now I'm drawing a blank on the third
the
one.
Grand Canyon.
No, it is not. I want to say it might be. You know what? It might be. Is it the It's not the Colosseum. It might
Statue
be
of
something in
Liberty?
Italy. It might be something in Italy. I
Okay.
can't remember. I can't. I'm drawing a blank on the third one.
Alright,
I
well, we'll get back to
apologize.
that next time, so.
I know. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. No, you've lived in more places than most of us have, so,
I know. I
uh,
did when I graduated from college. I did the backpack through Europe. So
there
I
you go.
slept on. That was cool.
There you go. Naturally, you'd let your kids do that now since you've done it,
No
right?
way. No way. Different world. And we didn't
That's
even
true.
have cell phones.
I
I
know.
mean, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. We would tell our family, "See you when I get back," and they'd go, "Okay, have fun." And that was the
I
extent of the
know.
worry for the most part.
Sleeping on trains
Yeah.
in Europe. No way would I ever let my daughter do that
Yeah,
now.
she might get proposed to. You better look out.
It's crazy. I know. It's so crazy.
So tell John, "See what you did?" Yep.
I know. That's right.
Anyway, Sandy Cooper, Real Property Management Impact. We've enjoyed having you on today. Good luck with
Thank
everything,
you.
folks. We've been putting Sandy's phone number up there. If you have a property you're getting ready to list, please don't manage it yourself. Get professionals like that. And
Yeah.
Sandee, thanks for coming on the show. We've enjoyed it today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. And yeah, if anyone is interested in having their property evaluated, we'll happily, no cost, I can give you a deep dive what the market trends are. Give us a call.
Wonderful. And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.